In this lesson, we'll learn about color temperature. Alright, now it may seem sort of odd to you at first just to hear that colors can actually have temperatures assigned to them. But while this is sort of an abstract idea, I assure you it's 100% correct. Now, rather than diving into the science of color and how light creates colors, I'd rather just give you an example of how warm and cool colors or color temperatures can be reflected in nature. Now, let's just go ahead and close your eyes for just a moment with me and picture yourself in a scene. Let's imagine that we're outdoors and it's fall and we're surrounded by trees and nature, and really everything is beginning to change colors. The grass is dying, the leaves are starting to fall and change colors. Really imagine the colors that you would see in this scene. Now, I'm going to show you an image here, and the colors that you see should be somewhere around these right here. Now, these are very fall-like colors. Now, let's just change modes for just a moment. Let's go ahead and imagine that we're deep in the heart of winter. Everything is very cold. There's snow on the ground. Maybe we're out in the middle of sort of a field and there's a lake nearby trying to freeze. Just imagine with me the colors you would see there. Now, let's look at this image in front of us here. This is maybe the color scheme that you would see. Now, in looking at these two images, we see really great examples of color temperature. Let's go back to our color wheel and we'll break that down here. Now, I've got here the 12 segments that we've spoken about before, but before we go ahead and proceed here, I'm going to go ahead and try and erase the distinction between these segments. I'm going to go ahead and apply a radial blur to these. And what that's going to do, we need to make sure that we're not on our text layer. Let's come down here and select our color wheel, and let's go ahead and apply our radial blur to that. And again, what this is going to do is it's going to attempt to fill in the gaps between these colors, really creating all the colors between each segment. So once that finishes applying, there we go. You see now that it's sort of all those colors have been blended together. We've got all the colors in between here. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you where about the division in warm and cool colors would be here. And let's just show that layer right there. Now, let's go ahead and just break this down for a moment. Let's talk about hot colors. Hot colors are they actually remind me of flames or fire. Now, the hottest color that we can possibly use is going to be our primary red in full saturation. Now, that red is a very strong color. It's very aggressive. That red can actually increase our blood pressure or stimulate our nervous system. Now, in thinking about hot colors, it's natural next. Let's go ahead and talk about some warm colors. Now, if we move to the right of that red on our color wheel and start moving down, we're going to see our warm colors. Now, warm colors actually add yellow to the red in some amount, and they actually provide sort of a comforting feeling or a spontaneous, welcoming feeling. Now, warm colors are actually said to stimulate our appetite, and we can see that reflected in modern advertising, just in the logos and the color schemes used by a lot of fast food restaurants. Now, if we were to look at these colors, these warm colors, we would also see these in this first image we looked at here, this autumn image. You see a lot of warm colors here, a lot of reds, yellows, a little bit of green, some browns, very warm palette used in this image. Now, moving back over here to our color wheel, let's talk about cold colors for a moment. Now, the coldest possible color is going to be our primary blue in full saturation. Now, that blue actually has the exact opposite effect of our hot primary red. That blue actually is sort of calming, and it actually can slow our metabolism. Blue is actually thought to be able to suppress our appetite. A lot of people will paint their kitchens in tones of blue. Now, examining the colors around that blue color, you're going to see our cool colors. Now, our cool colors are refreshing, they're soothing, and they're calming. And they include anywhere from these blue-greens down here all the way up into these violets and deep purples up here. Now, we can see sort of this cool color palette reflected in this second image we looked at. There's very much a blue theme going on here. Now, we've got a variety of tints, shades, and tones of blue, but overall this image is very blue. Let's go ahead and go back here to our color wheel. Now let's talk for just a second about combining our our warm and cool colors in one composition. If we were looking at that same image, that tree that has sort of an overall blue theme to it, if there was like a glowing campfire, sort of maybe next to the tree underneath it, with a camper next to it, that warmth surrounded by that color scheme of cool colors, those warm colors would actually advance towards us, while the cool colors would actually recede into the background. Now, if we had a very hot color right next to a very cold color, those colors would actually tend to vibrate. Now, in saying this, they actually sort of compete against each other, and looking at them right up next to each other, they tend to just shake just a little bit. Now, as a designer, it's important that you understand color temperature and how to use it in a composition or in a project. Now, if you were using colors in a layout, maybe you could use a cool color scheme for your project with just splashes of warm color to make certain important areas pull off the page or advance towards the reader. Or maybe an important part of a logo is done in a warm color that really makes it pop out. So, now that we've discussed color temperature and what that is, I'd like to encourage you to go out and do some image hunting. Find some pictures of your own and really try and pick out some warm colors and some cool colors in those images, and try and draw in or try and decipher a theme in some of the images.